fourth graders. Mrs. Smith here to start you off on our lessons in area and perimeter. This is chapter 13 in your math book. So you're going to want to be sure that you have your math book out and so that you can be successful in this lesson. So this is the start of chapter 13. And I think that it's super important that you take the time to review some of these vocabulary flashcards and refresh your memory from some of the information that you learned in third grade. So here you have your flashcard about area, perimeter, square units, and unit square, which is just this one guy right here. So today we're going to be focusing specifically on perimeter, and I think that these two equations right here will help you to understand the two different ways that we're going to be calculating perimeter of a shape. So in third grade, you learned that if you have a shape such as this one, right? I know this is the area card, but if you have a shape such as this one and you wanted to find if you wanted to find the perimeter, you would just add up all the sides, right? You would do 8 feet plus 4 feet plus 8 feet plus 4 feet, and you would get the perimeter of that shape. As a fourth grader, we're going to look at that in the same way, but also add some multiplication in as an option for you. So you can still calculate perimeter by adding up all the sides, but I also want to bring your attention to these cards here. So you'll see how it says P, so perimeter, equals this fancy cursive L is length plus width plus length plus width. Okay, so that's the same way about thinking about adding up all of the sides, right? If the length of my shape is 8, I'm doing the length plus the width is 4 plus the length is 8 plus the width. Okay? In that same way, there are two of these L's, right? Two lengths, and they are two of the same length. You can see this is 8 and this is 8. So instead of just adding them up, I could do 2 times 8 and add that to 2 times 4 and get the same perimeter. So these are just two different ways you can do it. You can add them up like you've been doing this whole time, or you can start adding in this multiplication, whichever is easier for you. So we're going to take a closer look at that today in your math book. So I am on page 825, and this is lesson 1 about measuring perimeter. So let's take a closer look at what I was just telling you about those two formulas. So as a reminder, the distance around a closed figure is called its perimeter. The distance around the outside is what we call perimeter. So this first example here is a good reminder about what we did in third grade. So this one says, example 1, Berta walked around a park on the rectangular path shown. How far did Berta walk? So the important part that we see here is rectangular. With a rectangle, we know that opposite sides are equal. That's something that's super, super important for you to remember. So look, it even says it right here. Opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So looking at this rectangular shape here, I can understand that even though just these two sides are labeled for me, I can label the other sides using this information. So if opposite sides are equal, the opposite of this side is this side. So if this side is 12, that means this side is 12. And for this one, this side is 6. Its opposite side is this side, so this side is 6. Okay, so you notice how I just did the opposite, and I was able to do that because this shape is a rectangle. Okay, that is the important part. So now I can do what I've been doing since third grade. I can just add up all the sides. I can do 12 plus 12 plus 6 plus 6. And what do I get? 36 yards. So Berta walked 36 yards. Okay? So that's the addition way that we've been talking about this whole time. As we move into the next example, you'll see some of that multiplication come in. So again, down here is that key concept reminder. So with perimeter of a rectangle, you know that opposite sides are equal. You can see opposite here. We have length and length, width and width, showing that those sides are equal. So it says here, to find the perimeter of a rectangle, add the lengths of the sides. The perimeter of a rectangle also equals 2 times its length plus 2 times its width. Okay, so I can do adding up all of the side lengths, right? The 2 long pieces are here, and the 2 width pieces are here. Or instead, I could say this one times 2 and this one times 2 and get the same answer. We're going to practice that on the back. So here we are. There we go. Okay, so actually I skipped ahead of myself. So we're going to practice that rectangle one in a second. On example 2, we're talking about a square. So this little sentence up here reminds me about what I should remember about squares. It says a square has 4 sides of equal length. To find the perimeter of a square, multiply the length of one side by 4. So looking at my square, I know with squares that all of the sides are equal in length. That is what makes it a square. So if I know one side is 6 inches, all of the sides are 6 inches. So to figure out the perimeter, all I have to do is take one of the side lengths and multiply it by 4, that 4 being each of the sides, right? So I could do, let's see, 6 times 4. Right? And knowing what you know about multiplication and repeated addition are the same thing. So I could do 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 6 times 4 and get the same thing, 24. Okay, here's a little formula for you that if you wanted to use it, you could. So again, this is multiplying it by 4. So instead of having the 6 here, we're talking about an S for the side length. So perimeter equals 4, because we're talking about a square and it has 4 sides, times the side length. And I know from looking up here that that's 6. So I plug in the side length with my information from my picture. 4 times 6 is 24. So the perimeter of this square is 24. All right, now let's get into some of that other stuff that I was talking to you about on the front. The first example down here in guided practice is another square, but the second example is a rectangle, and I'm going to show you about that in a second. So there it goes, clearing up. So with what I learned in example 2, I know that this is a square. All of its side lengths are equal. So all I have to do to figure out the answer is take the side length, multiply it by the 4 sides. So I have the side length is 8. I'm multiplying it by its 4 sides. And 8 times 4 is 32. Make sure you add your label on there. I'm talking about 32 centimeters. And so that's important that that's part of my answer. Okay, now getting into this rectangle. So as always, I want you to pick the strategy that works best for you. But with this example here, I'm going to show you a couple different options you have. So one strategy you have to find perimeter is to add up all the side lengths. You could do perimeter equals 7 plus 4 plus 7 plus 4, and you would get that the perimeter, when you add up all of those things, is 22. And of course, 22 inches. Okay, so that's one option there. Now, thinking back to that formula we saw on the front, with a rectangle, opposite sides are equal. So I could do instead perimeter equals, and I showed you this formula before, 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Okay, so I'm going to recopy this formula. Perimeter equals, and now I'm going to plug in the information I have from my picture. 2 times, and I'm supposed to plug in the length, so the 7, plus 2 times the width, which is 4, And now I'm going to just multiply. I have my parentheses. I know I need to multiply what's in the parentheses first. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 times 4 is 8, and 14 plus 8 is 22. So you see how I got the same answer both ways? So both of these are great ways for you to figure out the perimeter. This one has a couple extra added steps, but it's important that you understand why you can do this is because I'm working with a rectangle where the opposite sides are equal. Okay, so this one works for rectangles. If you're not working with a rectangle, that's not going to work for you, but it does work in this case. So either way, my answer for this one is 22 inches. All right. So moving to your independent practice, this is what you are responsible for working for on your own today. So you can see you have 4 questions up here about finding the perimeter. Okay, I see a rectangle here, a rectangle here, a rectangle here, and a square here. Okay, then down here, you have 2 questions about, let's see, it says find the unknown side length, write an equation to find the perimeter. Okay, so let's do one of these together, and then you can do the other one on your own. So look at this one as a square. So you should be able to do this one just fine on your own, but this one says find the unknown side length, write an equation to find the perimeter. So this is a rectangle. What have I been telling you this whole time about rectangles? Opposite sides are equal. So you can see they have them labeled here for me, 10, and the opposite side is also 10. This side is labeled 6, so the opposite side is 6. Good. And then the equation to find the perimeter would be P equals, and now because this is a rectangle, I'm going to have 2 times the length, which is 10, plus 2 times the width, which is 6, and that's my equation. Okay, it doesn't say solve, so I don't really have to, but if you wanted to be above and beyond and solve this, 2 times 10 is 20, plus 2 times 6 is 12, 20 plus 12 is 32. All right, so there's that one. This one over here is a square. So I told you that you're going to take the side length times 4 to find the perimeter of a square. So you need to fix this. This is not the answer. You need to write it with the side length plugged in here and tell me what this missing side is. Use your knowledge about squares. Okay, moving on down. Here is some unlabeled shapes for you. So here you're supposed to find the perimeter of each of these in units. So instead of saying inches, centimeters, yards, we're talking about units. So an example for this one could be you're going to have to find the length of one of these sides. This is a square. So I know I just have to find one side length. So I'm going to count how many squares go down. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 units that go down. That means each of these sides, because it's a square, they're all equal. So I have 4, 4, 4, and 4. And to find perimeter with a square, I remember Mrs. Smith told me that I can take 4 for its number of sides times its side length to find perimeter. I'm going to plug in my side length. My side lengths are 4. 4 times 4 is 16. And then my label on this one is units. All right. So remember this front side, you need to go back and do all the ones I didn't do with you. The back side, you are also responsible for working on. The only one that I would like to go over with you is number 14, because this one is a little bit tricky, and I'm going to show you why. It says, explain to a friend how to find the perimeter of the figure shown to the right. So this is not a rectangle, so I cannot do what I've been doing on the front. This is an abnormal shape. I need to figure out how to do this one. So think back to 3rd grade when I told you you just add up the side lengths. So I'm going to write down perimeter equals, and I'm going to start writing down my side lengths. So I have 8 plus 10 plus 4 plus this 4 feet here is describing this part right here where it goes up, plus 4. Let's see. And this one, plus 4. So this is 4 and this is 4. Okay, so this one, I don't know. So how am I going to figure this one out? I'm going to tell you. You look at the opposite side, right? Here's 10 feet. Opposite sides are equal. So this is 10. This chunk that's missing is 4. So from here to here is 4 feet. So that means this side is going to get me to 10. So 4 plus what gets me 10? 4 plus 6 gets me 10. So this side here is 6. Okay. So now I'm just going to add those up like normal. 8 plus 10 is 18. 18 plus, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 24. So 18 plus 24. Let me see if I can do that in my head. It's 42. 42 and then feet is what you get when you add up all these guys here. All right. So that's the one that I wanted to work through with you. You need to do the remainder of these on your own. As always, bring your questions to your next Zoom meeting with your teacher. I hope this helped you, and I will talk to you again soon, 4th grade.